I'm Deb Starker, and I'm the Executive Director of the Museum of Early Trades and Crafts, and I'm here to answer 5 questions that you, the public, want to know. So let's get started. The first question is kind of a general question, and it's what do you do as a museum director, and how did you get into this field? Well, a museum director is kind of like responsible for everything that goes on in the museum, almost like a CEO or president of a company. And in a small museum, just like METC, I kind of get involved in lots of different things. So I'll be involved in the finances, I'll be involved in writing grants, I'll be involved in the programs and some of the exhibits that happen. But a really smart director hires really talented people, particularly in a museum like ours, so that we can have excellent programs and that everyone can do their part. And the reason I got into this business or into this field is I always loved museums. Even as a little girl, I grew up in New York, so I had access to every museum you could possibly think of. And I love to go to art museums and history museums. So when I finally decided what it was that I wanted to do with my life, I'm absolutely thrilled that I could do the thing that I love the most. The second question is really an interesting one and an important one. What is the most challenging thing about being a director? And I really have to say the most challenging thing is making sure that I have enough funding to create the programs and the exhibitions that we want to do here at the museum. That's really critical. So I think that's probably the most challenging, is making sure that I can find that funding. Where do museums get their money? So museums are very unique, and all of the funding for museums comes from other sources, like government funding, grants, annual appeal, donations, and programming. But programming actually provides the least amount of funding for anything in the museum. So we spend a lot of time trying to write grants and doing capital campaigns for all of the projects that we want to do here at the museum. COVID crisis has definitely affected us. We have been closed since mid-March, and we have no idea yet when we're going to be able to open. We're waiting for the governor to get back to us. But the good thing about museums is it's a very tight community, and we've really been supporting each other, the museums here in New Jersey and all around the country, talking to each other about plans, about solutions, helping each other out and making decisions, talking about staff, talking about how we're going to reopen. So I find that that's really comforting, that we're really all getting together. There are about 35,000 museums in the United States, and most of those museums are small museums. So it's really good to have a community that can help you make some decisions when it comes time to reopening the museum, because we want, when we open, the museum to be a safe place for everybody. Our final question is really a fun question, and it's what is my favorite object in the museum? So it's really hard for me to decide. We have about 8,600 objects that are in our collection. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, because I'm going to give you 2 different objects. The first one is a blanket that was made in the late 1800s by a woman in New Jersey, and it's blue and white. And we think a blanket, like, what's so great about that? But this was a utilitarian blanket that she had to create for her family to keep them warm. But she infused it with her own pattern and her own artistic ability, and really made something that the family had to use into something that was really beautiful and reflected her own personality. So I just love that about it. And the second object that I think is really one of my favorites is a plane. Not a plane that flies in the air, but this is a plane that carves wood. And this particular plane was made by an African-American enslaved person named Cesar Chilor. And Cesar was an enslaved person in the Northeast United States. And when the person who actually owned him died in 1753, he gave Cesar his freedom, along with his wood shop, along with his tools, and a trade that Cesar carried with him for the rest of his life. And these planes were made probably in about the mid-1700s, maybe 1760. And what's really so magnificent about them is each one of them has Cesar's initials on the back, so that's how we know it belongs to him. This is something that all craftsmen and woodworking people did back in the 1800s. They put their own initials. So the reason that I loved these two objects was both of them tell such really great stories. And that's one of the most important things that we do here at the museum. Everything we do is telling a story about a person and about a way of life. So thanks for these questions. I think they're great, and I hope to see you at the museum and when we open. But before that, don't forget to check out our website, metc.org, because we have lots of things for you to do online and in our virtual museum. So thanks a lot. Take care.